Hey guys, welcome to the Perfectly Wasted Podcast. I'm the host, DullOxide. Today's episode 29 on first houses and apartments. You can find all my previous episodes on the Drinking Wisemen YouTube channel, along with my bi-weekly podcast, Brew the Truth, all my day-to-day photos, cosplay photos on my Instagram at DullOxide. Now, you might have already guessed, this is another kind of life skills episode for people that are maybe just moving out of the house for the first time, on their own for the first time, or kind of just are not used to their apartment or houses yet. Some simple things to help you out in case you didn't know about them, or maybe just a simple reminder in case, you might have forgotten these kind of things. So first and foremost, if it is your first time out of the house or your first time on your own, something that you're definitely going to be needing is going to be some tools. Now, a lot of people tend to forget this, but tools are very important for just being on your own. If you've never had a hammer before in your life, you're probably going to need it to hang photos and things like this. Needle nose pliers, flathead screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver, vice grips, and a plumber. That's like the basic essentials that almost everyone needs. I'd also suggest some household glue and probably duct tape because that can pretty much fix anything. Now, you could buy the majority of these tools inside of a toolkit on like Amazon or your local hardware store. Probably pick one up for like maybe 20 or 30 bucks. Each of these by themselves, all of it combined, maybe $10 total, including the plunger. You could buy some of these at like the 99-cent store. They're not going to be the best quality tools, but it'll get the job done until you get something better for most cases. I would highly recommend picking up a toolkit or buying just the tools that I stated earlier that are shown here on the side. It's just going to make your life a lot easier inside of your apartment or your home. Now, besides just having tools, probably the next most important thing that you have inside of your house is going to be your circuit breaker box. And I've got a picture of one here. It's actually very, very well documented on the side there. Most of them that are inside of houses are either on the outside of the house or inside of a closet or the garage. And this is the same inside of an apartment. Most apartments have their circuit breaker box inside of either the laundry room or a closet. So if for some reason you're inside of a room and the power just all of a sudden goes out, most cases if it's just one room, it's going to be because you blew a circuit. A blown circuit's pretty easy to spot. You just have to look for any of the switches inside of your circuit panel that are just switched the other way and switch it back the way that it's supposed to be, back to on. Now, something else to consider is that if your home or apartment has these GFCIs, which stands for ground fault circuit interrupter, then these could be flipped to off or could have been broken. The circuit could have been broken, in which case you're also not getting power to a series of electrical outlets or possibly even switches in the area. So if you go and you check your circuit box and none of the circuits are busted, then go and check out your GFCIs and check and see if the little buttons need to be reset. And that'll probably fix about 90% of your problem issues that you might have in your home or apartment. And it's really just like a really simple fix. So that's something I check first if you're having problems with power, and it's definitely something that's most likely going to be the most important thing that you'll run into as far as power-related issues go. Now, another big one for me is actually AC and fans. Okay, so something a lot of people don't realize is that fans have actually a switch on them that can reverse the flow of air. So why is that important? Well, it just kind of depends on like how your room is made up. And in the photo here, you can see it's got up for winter, down for summer. So usually it's going to be because the circulation of air inside of the room is going to be different. You're going to want it different for either summer or for winter. So with the switch in one direction, it's going to be pulling air up and rotating it through the room. And with the switch in the other direction, it's going to be pushing air down and pulling it from the roof. So it's going to really just change the airflow inside of the room. If your fan's in the center of a room on a square room and you're sitting right in the center, then you're going to want it blowing directly down on you, especially if it's the summer. It's pulling the air from your vent and bringing it down to you. In the winter, you're going to want to push it out to the outside of the room and bring it up for you so that you're not just sitting there getting boiled right under all the heat. So that's one of the little tricks that's really good to know, is that you could always just flip the switch on your fan and hopefully that's going to cool you down or heat you up more properly. And I feel like not a lot of people know this, so hopefully that helps you stay cool or warm depending on what you're looking for. Now, with fans, like I said, also comes AC. A really, really, really big thing for people that are inside of the houses and apartments for the first time is changing your air filters. Most apartment complexes or most houses that you rent, the people that you're renting from are going to supply you with filters to change out. And this is really important, mostly to them, because if you don't change out a filter and the end result is that it breaks the AC unit, ACs are probably the single most expensive thing on a house that you could fix. So in order to try and prevent that, a lot of places will just give you the filters for free once a month so that you can just change it out monthly. And the benefits, besides just like health benefits of not having a ton of dust flying around all over the place, is that you're probably going to get more life out of the air conditioner unit, which means that you don't have a broken AC in the summer and you don't have a broken heater in the winter. And those really suck to have. So I can't stress enough how important it is to change out your filters. If you have filters and you haven't changed them in a while, please change them. It's just going to save you a lot of time and money in the future, especially if you own the house, or it's just going to save you a lot of time in the future just to switch it. So switch those out if you haven't recently. It's definitely something to keep in mind. Now, something that definitely everyone has inside of their house is sinks, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the plunger that we showed earlier. So if you have a sink that's kind of like one of these that has two sides to it for your kitchen, then you might notice that if the left-hand side, which is the main side that has the disposal, starts to clog up, that if you try and declog it with like a plunger or something like this, you just can't. And the reason is because it's going to force all of the water that's in it to the right side of the sink, and you're just not going to get anywhere. So something that happens, if you get into this predicament where all of a sudden you're just clogged up and you can't get it unclogged, a lot of times the reason that you can't unclog a sink is because it's diverting the water to another location. So inside of some of the kitchen sinks, it'll divert it to the right hand side and you have to plug it with something and then plunge to get it through. And in some of the bathroom sinks, even those little holes that they have on the side that's closest to you, that's where water kind of drains out to if it starts to overflow. Depending on where the blockage is inside of your pipe, it's going to be forcing water back up through there. So you really have to either get a lot of pressure through the plunger, or you have to be able to basically plug that with something and then plunge it again. So kind of a silly thing to have a problem with, but it's a problem that I've run into, so I can't imagine I'm the only person that's ever run into it. Just something good to know for the future. Now, another one I think that probably a lot of people that aren't used to like cleaning on their own haven't run into is that stoves, these electric stoves that have the coils up on top, you can actually bring the oven range up like you see in my lower picture here. Usually it literally just like lifts up kind of like a car hood, and you can just clean out from inside of there. So if you ever have stuff that falls through that little tiny coil hole that you have and you're wondering, well, wow, how do I ever get to that? You just lift the range up and then you can clean underneath it and you're good to go. And I feel like it's something that people just tend to forget, is that, there's an area that you can clean here that really helps out. Now, of course, beyond the things that I've mentioned here, there are tons and tons of other ones. But hopefully, if you have tools like the ones that I mentioned before, and, if you're familiar enough with the house or apartment that you're in, you're going to be able to repair the majority of these things. If for some reason you ever have to go and start working on like electrical sockets like that GFCI unit that I showed you, you definitely want to turn off the circuits for that, because you don't want to electrocute yourself, because that just sucks. So that's one thing definitely to watch out for. Another big thing is changing the batteries inside of your smoke alarms. They literally save lives. I can't stress enough again, they literally save lives. Having your smoke alarm functional could basically mean the difference between your life and death. So that's a really, really big deal. So please change out your batteries in your smoke alarm. It definitely can only help you. Also, if it is your first time inside of like a house or apartment, chances are you might not know how the air conditioner works inside of it. So usually air conditioner is going to blow the coolest and the strongest directly from wherever the air is coming from, which, just kind of makes sense. If you kind of imagine it like a household fan, the closer you are to a fan, the stronger the breeze is coming from it. It's the same with just a household air conditioning unit. The household air conditioning units have fans in them, and the closer you are to the fan in the AC, the stronger the air is going to be. So if you are like moving into a house or to a place with the other roommate, you might want to try and hit the AC on and see where the AC is coming from strongest, and maybe pick that room up instead of one of the other rooms. Rooms that are above things like garages are especially warmer if you're in a warm state. Like I live in Las Vegas, and the room that is right above my garage is basically boiling in the summer. It really fucking sucks because it becomes an oven. So that's one thing to consider. Another thing is that most of these houses and apartments are built to have the air conditioning running in a certain way. So The majority of them are made to work in a way that, if the doors are closed for the rooms, you're going to get the most out of your cooling or your heating. And if they aren't closed, then it's going to circulate air and things like this, but it might just kind of make it so that the other rooms aren't getting the proper cooling or heating. So if you close the doors inside of your house when you're trying to cool or heat them, you're probably going to get the most bang for your buck there, especially because if you don't want to be heating or cooling a room, then you can literally just close off the vent and close the door, and then you're getting more air to wherever you're going, and it's just beneficial in all ways. I'm hoping that some of these tips and some of these things kind of help you out a little bit. Again, this isn't like everything that you're going to want to know, but it's stuff that's definitely going to help you out in the future. Thanks again for joining me. Please do like, subscribe, and share. If you have any tips on future episodes, please let me know. You can check out all my previous episodes here on the channel. And thanks again for joining me. That was 10 minutes perfectly wasted.